The Creep tapes are back, and I'm so glad that we're talking about this franchise once again. It's so cool because it felt like, honestly, that we may never see Mark Duplass's Creep character ever again. It just was going years and years without hearing anything, any updates about Creep 3. It felt like just this may never actually come together. They had a really difficult time writing the script, finding the right idea, and I think that they found a really good little middle ground, non-committal with the Creep tapes, because they can make these little episodic ideas with the Creep where they don't have to commit to a whole movie. They could just make these small episodes of him being a killer, finding these people, and getting these little ideas out that, honestly, most of these ideas probably are several concepts that they had for Creep 3, where they just didn't feel like it was the right thing or something that they could do for an entire movie, so they went into it. And they actually said recently, Patrick Brice did, that they still want to do a Creep 3, that they want to make it their Army of Darkness of this franchise, which I think is so cool. But it's just really exciting that we are getting more Creep content than ever. It feels like new life is breathed into this franchise and that we're finally actually getting a lot out of it. But getting into the first episode itself, we have this really interesting idea, and what I think is so funny about it is that this is probably the funniest Creep tape, even maybe piece of media in this franchise. We open up with what we think is just another square Creep tape. We think it's just another general episode of the Creep doing what he usually does, but his voice is modulated. It's messed up. It doesn't sound the way it usually does. And we have this reveal that it's David Dastmalchian impersonating the Creep. And then we cut to Mark Duplass basically in the same shoes as Aaron from the first movie, going to the same cabin, and then like kind of getting this whole recreation of the first movie. He pulls up to the cabin, the Airbnb where David Dastmalchian is, his copycat killer, and we're basically getting a line for line, shot for shot remake of the first movie with David Dastmalchian. And my first thought was like, how does he know all these things? How does he know all the lines while also not knowing that that is the Creep and what he looks like? And they actually provided a really interesting explanation for that, and it's that the first Creep movie was uploaded to the dark web, but with Mark Duplass's face and voice redacted so that nobody actually knew what he looked like and sounded like. And that was really clever, because that was like basically my biggest thought throughout the entirety of the episode was like, how does he know all of this? Tubby time. Oh my god, this is gonna be a good day. But he doesn't know what he looks like or what he sounds like if he'd seen the tape, but they obviously had to address that, and they did by the end of the episode in, I think, just the best way. I think that's some of what I think was the funniest parts of this episode was Mark Duplass's Creep being a control freak throughout the whole thing, getting annoyed with David Dastmalchian messing things up, messing up lines, skipping monologues, and then also too when he's trying to like explain the cancer thing, interrupting him. Like, you see his perfectionism kind of seeping through and his annoyance with him for messing these things up. It's just all that stuff that is so good and so classic of this franchise. You see that movie fan nature of him kind of coming out and getting annoyed, talking about shot for shot remakes, stuff like that. It was just like really good commentary, and it's that stuff that keeps the Creep franchise fresh, spinning it on its head, because it understands like how there is a possible huge redundancy with this franchise and how that could possibly happen. I think that the beginning of this subverts that by having that what looks like a standard Creep tape turn out to be somebody else, and you have this copycat killer. It really is like a great concept. And he even says by the end of it, this is original. And I know I'm like gushing, but I honestly think this might be maybe potentially my favorite Creep tape. It just really starts this season off with a banger, and it's so goddamn funny. I think it just hits on really the strong suits of Creep as a franchise and property itself. And when you get down to it too, you kind of see how the Creep kind of picks away at this copycat's ego. You see how he basically tries to one-up his freak throughout it. And that was the stuff that was so funny, because it's like he really did not expect it. And just getting to that ultimate reveal of the Creep getting out of the ropes and, you know, putting on the real mask, talking about representing a brand, I just found it so good. Like, you honestly kind of get a little bit pumped when the Creep puts on the real Peach Fuzz mask and gets the real axe and says, I've lived it. Him finishing his lines before he even gets to them. It's just so goddamn good. And, you know, David Dastmalchian, he's one of those actors that I think has just risen in profile as of late. He's a great character actor. Like, that's the thing with him that I think has really set him apart. You know, Polka Dot Man, Late Night with the Devil, Dexter Resurrection, all these other things. He just has kind of gotten to be in more and more things. He's gotten to be one of those recognizable faces where you don't really know his name, but you know who he is when you see him. He's got such a weird face, weird mannerisms, but I think what he does so interestingly in this is that it doesn't feel like he's really genuinely doing a hearted attempt at what Mark Duplass did in that first movie. It feels like an insecure imitation. And that's what I think is so good about it, is that he doesn't say it with his whole chest. He says it in a way that sounds like an insecure copycat trying to impersonate the creep. And then by the end of it, you kind of see that insecurity unravel when Mark Duplass has him in the chair and turns the tables on him. You kind of see that, and he gives him that genuine attempt to actually set himself apart, and he does it by killing himself. It really is just a very interesting subversion of this franchise, and you just love to see it. But those are my thoughts on the Creep Tapes Season 2, Episode 1. Just a really banger of an episode. Starts out with a great subversion of it, a great recreation of that first movie while poking, prodding, doing some of those funny things that makes it so good. And I'm really excited to see where they go next. Let me know what you guys think of Creep Tapes Season 2, Episode 1 in the comments. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.